It was a rainy and gloomy night, typical of a harsh winter. I was working alone during that shift at the warehouse of a transportation company, where the sound of the rain hitting the windows and the wind howling through the cracks in the walls were my only companions. The only available light was from the flickering fluorescent lamp, adding a sense of discomfort to the already lonely environment. The clock on the wall read 2:30 a.m., and while I was used to night shifts, this night felt different. The rain seemed heavier than usual, and the sound of the droplets hitting the roof grew louder. I was completely alone in the building, except for the cold air seeping through the broken windows and the unsettling feeling that seemed to take over the place. With my mind wandering and the loneliness wrapping around me, I tried to push away the feeling of discomfort. To pass the time, I began playing with the reflection I saw in the puddles of water at the warehouse entrance. When the rain hit the ground heavily, the reflections distorted, creating strange shapes that seemed to move. I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was just the effect of the rain, but part of me couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. In this play with shadows and reflections, I noticed one of the mirrors in the warehouse was broken. As I looked closer, I saw something that made me freeze. A dark spot, almost like a shadow, was moving around me in the reflection, even when I stood completely still. What was that? Was I starting to imagine things? Or was there something real, here, with me? As the night went on and the rain intensified, the sounds of the city disappeared. The only thing I could hear was the constant sound of the rain hitting the tiles and occasionally the rustling of papers and boxes in the warehouse. It was then, out of pure curiosity, that I decided to explore a part of the place I'd never noticed before. Behind a stack of filing boxes, there was a small door, almost hidden. It was locked, but what caught my attention was a small note attached to the doorknob. The paper was crumpled but still legible. "Do not enter," the note said. I don't know what compelled me, but I immediately felt an irresistible need to know what was behind that door. With a sigh of anxiety, I grabbed the emergency key I always kept with me, and the door creaked open. What I found inside made my heart stop. The space was empty, except for an old rocking chair covered in dust and a broken window letting the rain in through thin strands. But it was when I looked at the corner of the room that everything changed. In the corner of the room, leaning against the wall, was a dark figure. At first, I thought it was just a shadow caused by the weak light of the emergency lamp, but as my eyes adjusted, I realized it wasn't an illusion. It was a person, or something resembling a person, but its form seemed distorted, almost as if it were melting into the darkness. With every passing second, I felt the presence of that thing grow heavier, as if it were slowly approaching me. The air grew colder, and a chill ran down my spine. I tried to scream, but my throat felt blocked. No sound came out of me. It was as if time had stopped, and everything around me had become unrecognizable. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure. It moved, but in a strange way, as if it were a shadow gaining shape, now slowly approaching the door. Panic took over me. I needed to get out of there, but my legs felt heavy, glued to the floor, as if some invisible force was preventing me from moving. Suddenly, as if an invisible force had freed me, my instincts took control. With my heart racing and my body in panic, I managed to take a step toward the door. My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob, but with effort, I turned it. The sound of the metal turning was like a muffled scream in the darkness, and finally, the door opened. I ran into the hallway, not looking back, fear consuming me with every step. When I finally reached the safety of the main hallway, I stopped to catch my breath, trying to process what had just happened. I never imagined that a simple night of working alone could turn into such a real nightmare. I looked at the shadows in the hallway, but I saw nothing. The figure had vanished. But the lesson was clear: no matter how safe you think you are in a familiar place, the unknown can hide in the darkest corners, patiently waiting to make you question your own perception of reality. I never worked alone during that shift again. The nightmares stayed with me for days, and the thought of being in an empty room, with the shadows watching, was enough to make me quit the job. I spent the rest of my days trying to understand what happened that night, but I never found a plausible explanation. Sometimes, when I go back to work, I still feel a chill run down my spine when I pass near the place where it all happened. The only thing I know for sure is that after that night, my perception of what is real and what isn't changed forever. Fear doesn't just come from things we see, but also from things we can't understand. And who knows, in the dead of night, there may still be something waiting, watching, ready to remind us that there's so much more beyond what we can see or comprehend. If you liked this story and want more spine-chilling tales, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment sharing your own experience or what you thought of this story. And remember, the next time you pass through an empty, dark place, never underestimate what might be lurking in the shadows.